I know I've been away for a minute, but now I'm back. Things got a little weird, and I kind of had to pause all this kind of stuff. So you're going to see some inconsistencies with the videos and stuff like that, but it was all during the learning curve. I was going to scrap it, but I said, why the fuck would I do that? I put so much time into these things. So, get into it. I'm just going to go over all of the supplies that I use in this first video. Everything from the canvas to the paintbrushes, even how to film your own references in this little video. There's a little demo of me taking the photos of the subject that we're going to be painting in these 3 first videos. So, enjoy. So the canvas that I like to use is called MDF board. I prefer the 1/4 inch. You can get it at 1/8 inch, but I like the thicker one. While you're at the hardware store, Home Depot does offer cutting services, which is where I like to get mine done. Typically I'll get them to cut it into 4 pieces, and then I'll cut to size myself after I get back to the studio. While you're there, it's a good idea to pick up some lint rollers, some small paint rollers, and a small paint tray. I like to dedicate this strictly for prepping. And what you want to do, as you're seeing here, is just remove any loose lint. It can cause problems if it's a lot of loose lint, a little bit of clumping issues, but just kind of roll over it a couple times, and then you'll be good to go. Part 2, prepping the MDF board. So now that we have all of our supplies and we're back in the studio, we're going to pour some of our gesso. This is a Liquitex brand. I like this one because it's not too thin and it's not too thick. I find it's just that Goldilocks ratio. So after we've loaded up our roller with a coating of paint, we don't want it to be too thick. You don't want it to be dripping. As you can see here, I'm kind of having to push into the board to get some of that paint out, which is the way that I prefer to do it. This allows it to dry quicker. You can do multiple layers a lot quicker as well. I recommend 2 layers minimum. This is just going to help the paint stick to the MDF board that is quite slick. That's it. Just a few simple rolls, and you got yourself a canvas. Now we're going to go over the brushes that I like to use. All of these brushes are from Rosemary Co. This is the landscape set with a couple additions. The first one is the boar hair bristle. This is a very short, natural hair bristle. It's very scratchy. Typically, this is the one I start my paintings with. I'll typically use it for the first stage when I'm using paint and liquid and kind of just sketching around. I prefer these ones in the beginning because they don't put down too much paint at once as compared to the synthetics. And then up next we have the square brushes. These are probably my go-to. These are all synthetic hairs, just 3 different sizes. The yellow hair is a lot more a softer brush, where the white is a bit more firm and a different material as well. Sable blend. This is a very useful brush as well. I probably use it in every single painting that I do. It's really good for pulling long lines like that. And then up next we got our fan brushes, 2 different kinds. This first one is softer. I really like these brushes because you can kind of get random shapes by twisting the brush around and kind of playing. And then we got this other fan brush. This is a lot more similar to the first one, the boar hair bristle. It's a lot firmer, there's less hair, and you can really see a difference with this one compared to the softer, fluffier guy. Up next is a new brush to my arsenal. This is a synthetic lining brush. I use this a lot in my Dark Souls series and found it very, very useful, kind of just like with the fan brushes. When you have the paintbrush down and you're kind of sliding along, you can twist it and get some really unique kind of shapes, create some happy accidents. Next is a couple more from the landscape series. It's just two different sizes. They just kind of caught my eye because of that trimming halfway down, where you're getting half as many bristles at the tip, that little bit of space in between. I found it very useful. It creates almost like a crosshatch kind of effect, as long as you don't gum up the bristles at the tip too much. Yeah, really cool brush. Really enjoy this one. And this last brush, also another very soft, natural hair. I think it's also sable. I could be mistaken on that, but this is the one I use mostly for creating soft edges, you know, like at the edge of a stroke, or if I want something to kind of descend into the distance, I'll kind of just tap that guy. That's pretty much it. You know, sometimes I'll throw in a big 1-inch painter's brush for big fades, but for these small kind of paintings, we don't really need it as much. Okay, so I thought I'd go over my little rig here. I'm using a Sony A7 II with a 50mm lens. This is just a little scrap piece of foam board, I think it is, foam core, something like that. Kind of just scored it in the back. So if you don't know what that means, essentially right where this fold is, right here. On the other side, I cut through the entire thing except for this side of the paper. And used a couple pieces of tape. One on that side, one on the other, and kind of just stopped. Kind of going the other way. Just used a couple books real quick. Some overhead lights. I do like the overhead. It creates nice shadows. And that's pretty much it. It's something anybody can do, really. Just needs a little bit of space and a couple of supplies. So, as you can see here, I have the subject in the box area. I know it's a little ghetto. It's a little makeshift, but all that really matters is the end result. So you can kind of see here that I'm just kind of playing with the angles as I'm looking through the camera, trying to get multiple shots of different shadows being cast. Sometimes moving it just a couple degrees can give you a very different result. Here's one of them. And another. And again, this is all stuff that you can do yourself with anything. So I'm using Art Studio Pro to edit this photo. I'll start off with importing the image, and I like to put a blur on it. We have our image. We're gonna put it to black and white by reducing all of the saturation. And then we're gonna bump up those levels using the curves, as you can see there. Then I add a new layer, and I put a little center cross. This kind of helps when you're sketching into the canvas. Those are the levels of the curves that I used. You just want to up your whites and darken your shadows, but not too dark. You can see that the background is like a dark gray. I don't like to use a pure black. Another useful thing right here is I like to take a picture of the canvas just so I can get the reference photo in the right place for when I want to transfer and start sketching. Again, that's another use for those blue lines overlaid. So what I like to do is always have one blurred, and then I'll have the exact same photo without the blur.